Hey, my Sistas fans. Let's get into this review of Sisters Season 9, Episode 4, entitled One is the Loneliest Number. Okay, people, we're just going to get into this, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you for sharing and subscribing. Hit the notification button so you know when I post new content. I am now over the threshold of 1,000 subscribers, and I am extremely thankful for everyone that tunes in and listens. So let's get right into this episode. So the scene starts off with Karen coming from the hospital. Danny comes to Karen's house first. Now, this was the problem that I had, people. Nobody told Pam, right? Now, granted, it looks like as if nobody told Pam. I believe either Aaron told Pam that Karen was getting ready to have the baby, right? Because clearly somebody had to tell her at least that part, right? So Danny comes in. When Danny comes in, she sees the whole house has two of everything. Danny's like, oh no, let's move this stuff. So Pam is puzzled, like, wait a minute, why? What happened? Is she coming in with the babies? Did the babies have to stay in the hospital? So Danny quickly tries to tell her, but in the mix of doing that and moving the stuff, Karen walks in. Pam is still standing there startled, people. Pam is looking like, well, what's happening? So Karen comes in. As Karen walking in the door, Pam blurts out, let me see those babies. And, at that moment, Karen looked around and she decided that she could not do it, and she went straight into her bedroom. Pam is still puzzled, but Andy steps in and explains to her what happened with Pam, what happened with Karen. And, Cameron lost one of the twins. One of the twins was stillborn. And Pam is looking really hurt. Now, I don't like how the writers did that part right there. Because I'm like, come on, y'all could have had somebody tell Pam that she lost the baby. Like, I don't know. I don't know why. Out of all the people, they didn't tell Pam about that part. Because I would have been thinking that Pam may have did something like this. Like, been at the house already, setting everything up. And like I said, I think that Aaron might have told Pam that Karen was in the hospital having the twins. But at that time, everybody was going through it with Karen. So I could see kind of a little bit, when you think about it, how they may have forgotten to actually tell Pam that she lost one of the twins. I know that they know that she, I know that she knew that Karen was in the hospital getting ready, having the baby. So, yeah, I think that it's possible, when I started thinking back about it, that they were so caught up into what was happening with Karen that, that wasn't the most important thing for them to try to tell Pam, what was going on with Karen. So I could see that happening. So as the ladies are all in there, everybody's there, and then Aaron tells Pam, but one of the babies survived, which is his baby, Faith, and he basically introduced Pam to Faith, and Pam was, looking a little confused through this whole thing, but, she looked at the baby. It cuts, and then we go straight into Zach and Fatima. Zach comes downstairs as Fatima looks like she's getting ready for work, and they have this conversation. Now, my thing about Fatima is, I'm going to need for Fatima to focus on her pregnancy and what is going on with her. She is so busy trying to be there for all of them that I'm not seeing her being worried about herself and her child. So I can see, Zach is grieving. So I think that Fatima needs to give him a moment to go through it. I know because it's her man, she doesn't want to see him hurt or anything, but she has to give him time to go through it. There's a scene with Fatima and Zatima where she constantly is saying to Zach that she needs to process things, and she needs to process things in her own time. And even in Zatima, she basically is saying, I don't need for you to keep asking me, am I okay? Let me process it first, and then we can have this conversation. So I think that that's where Zach is going with this. But I can appreciate that Zach character is, still trying to be loving to Fatima because he knows, he's supposed to be loving to her, but he's still trying to be easy with his emotions, even though he's grieving when it comes to Fatima because he knows she's pregnant. And he's tried to explain to her, listen, I'm gonna need for you to stop trying to make things okay that you had no control over. And I get that. And when you asking somebody, if you have something that you're going through, like a grief, like losing a child, a parent, or whatever, when people ask you, are you okay? It's like, I don't think you should ask a person if they okay, especially if they have a loss like that, because clearly they are not okay, right? So the best thing to say is, you know what? I'm here from you. I know you're not okay, but I'm here for you. And I'm here, if you need to process things and you need for me to stop asking, or trying to, like something like that is something that I feel like should be said to a person who has went through what Zach has went through. Because remember, people, he lost his mom, he lost his money, and now the baby. So, clearly Fatima, he's not okay. So to keep asking him that is just a waste of time, right? He's going to start to not want you around because he doesn't want to hear you asking if he's okay. Now, as far as them separating for a few episodes, I do agree with that. I think that they will. I think that Fatima will step back again. Like I said in my previous review, I think Fatima will step back a little bit. And I think that's best for her and her baby as well. I think that she, still loves Zach and everything and stuff like that. But I think that Fatima is going to step back a little bit, right? Because Zach needs time again to process it without Fatima being there, in my opinion. That's what it's looking like. So I do believe that they are going to separate for a few episodes. I think they'll definitely get back together. I don't think that they will separate because he will start to have feelings for Karen or go see Karen. I don't think that the writers will go that route as far as Karen and Zach. I don't really see it. I hope not, but I don't think they will because it was just too much drama, prolonged drama with Zach and Fatima and all that. So I don't think we're going to see that. But Fatima at first tells Zach and to see that she was going to go to work, but she's thinking to stay home. But Zach assures her he's fine, even though he's not. But he's saying he's fine because he wants to deal with it on his own. You know what I mean? So Fatima decides, all right, after Zach basically told her no, just go to work, she decides that she'll go into work and she tells him she loves him and then she leaves. Okay, so the next scene is we go back to Karen. And Ms.Lisa is trying to get Karen to basically bond with baby Faith. And she just a cutie. That little baby is too cute. Even though they really show it half of her face, but she seems like such a calm little baby. So Ms.Lisa is telling Karen, like, your breast milk is going to dry up and you're not going to be able to breastfeed. And Karen is just in a real state of depression. Now, people, I get that right now, right? I understand she just came home. I understand that. The one thing I don't want the writers to do is prolong Karen's grieving, okay? All right. Some people may put in the comments, we're talking about a TV show here. So, but some people may say, no, it is going to take her a minute to get over it. But I feel like it's tenfold because it's that baby. I don't want to say that she doesn't care that she lost the baby. That's not what I'm saying. I feel like emotionally it's overwhelming for her because out of everything, she really wanted Zach's baby. Regardless of how she's acting with Fatima and how she's getting along and all of this stuff, I think it's overbearing. Like it's overwhelming for her because now she knows there's really absolutely no connection with her and Zach, right? And then Fatima is still pregnant, right? So I think all of these things are going on with her in her mind, along with knowing that she lost her baby as well. I think that I just don't want them to drag this out. That's the only thing I'm saying. I can understand right now because she just came home. She's just trying to adapt to not having her twins and knowing that one of the babies, in the particular baby, was Zach's baby that she lost. Again, I just don't want them to drag out this whole thing with Karen, okay? With Karen and this grieving and postpartum and depression and everything she's going through. I just don't want them to drag it out, okay? So I mean, I see a lot of people saying again, oh, it's Zach baby, so that's why she's really upset. And I agree with that. I'm gonna be honest. I do agree with that. I agree that because it's Zach's baby, she, is hurting her a little bit more. I don't know who will be able to go and see Karen to help her, through this. I think it's going to take a few episodes before we see Karen actually try to come into her own, because even in the next episode we kind of get a little mini trailer, the first mini trailer of Karen kind of looking at the baby, and I think she goes right back and lays down. She doesn't really want to connect with the baby, which is really unfair to the baby because the baby didn't ask to be here as well. But you do have Ms.Lisa and Aaron at the house, so we leave from that scene, right? And we go straight over to Andy and Hayden. Now, people, why the hell is Hayden still harassing Andy? But I tell you one thing. Andy gave him the business and let him know, like, listen, I'm the boss and you are beneath me at this point. So if you keep going, I'm going to go to HR. And he cleaned that up real quick. But he did ask about where's Gary. Now, I'm confused why the hell Hayden would like to know where's Gary at. Like, why do you care? Ain't this the man that slept with your wife? And why are you trying to figure out where Gary is at? I think Hayden still has something up his sleeve for Gary, and he's still trying to get back at him for him sleeping with Tamara. That's the only thing that I can think of, because why in the hell would Hayden really want to know where Gary is at? So, but Andy assures him that she has no idea. So, and Andy basically really doesn't care. Now, what is going on with Gary? Is Gary still on the show, or is Gary going to pop up? I think Gary may pop up later on in the season, because there is no reason for us to not see what happened with Gary right now. But I guess maybe the writers had Gary, took Gary off these first few episodes, because it's really based around Karen right now. So let's see what happens with that. I would like to know where Gary is too. But next up, the next scene is Danny and Tony. So Tony pops up. Looks like he's at work, but he's at work and Danny tells him about Karen. He tries to comfort Danny and tell her that Karen, with her being by her side, she'll come out of it okay. And, just try to continue to be there for Karen, as he will be there for her. For Danny. So they have this little small conversation. Tony walks off, and then comes Danny's co-worker. I forgot his name. I didn't even write down his name, people. I forgot his name, but he's hilarious. He comes over to Danny, and they start bickering backwards and forwards. And he tells Danny that he has a little bit information that he heard when he was standing around the water cooler. I don't know. He is ridiculous. But Danny says, I'm gonna need for you to be quiet, else this coffee is hot today, so it'll be right on you, basically. So they just had a little moment. It was funny. And then we move on to starting to be my favorite too, which is Maurice and Paige. Maurice and Paige are hilarious together. I love how they put them together. I actually love how Paige and Maurice is now getting along. They mix together very well. He's hilarious. She's hilarious. And these two are having a conversation. And basically, Paige is telling Maurice, didn't we say that we weren't going to be rude? And Maurice said, no, girl, I told you, you should not be rude. But they go backwards and forwards. Maurice kind of understands where Paige is coming from. And then they leave that, basically that conversation alone. So Sabrina comes out and says good morning to them, but Maurice realized that Sabrina doesn't sound like her normal upbeat self, so he decides to go in the office and have a conversation with Sabrina. Sabrina in this conversation tells Maurice about Karen losing the twin, and for Sabrina, she doesn't know really. She feels like she's walking on eggshells with Karen. She doesn't really know what to say. Or when it comes to Karen, she doesn't know the right things to say to Karen, so she's a little bit confused and she's a little bit worried as well because she wants to have a baby as well. And but she just explains to Maurice that she doesn't really know how to show up for Karen and be there for Karen because Karen is really resentful right now. She's really, hurt and grieving. And Sabrina doesn't really know how to process it and be there for her. But Maurice just said, you know what, Sabrina, it's nothing you can do. All you can do is be there for her. And that's it. And that is so true. If she's going to receive it or not. But only thing you could do is be there for her. That's it. So Maurice gives her that advice. And inside that conversation, Sabrina also tells Maurice that she found out that her embryos with Damani are all boys. Now, I know this is a setup for something, right? I don't know exactly what this is a setup for, people, but we already know this has got to be a setup for something when it comes to Sabrina and Damani. I believe that Bayo knows Damani. I don't know about this whole embryo thing, but these embryos being all boys is a little bit suspect for me. I mean, well, I guess you can't control, the embryos or how Damani may have made that happen if it was just his sperm. I don't know. It just seems like it's something more with Damani and the reason why he was so adamant on giving Sabrina his sperm. And Sabrina doesn't even really know him well. That's the problem right there. So I'm like, Sabrina doesn't really know him well enough to know how he just showed up and told her he was writing a story on her. And then boom, he's your sperm donor. I don't know. The writers got something cooking up with that, I truly believe. So inside that same conversation, in that same scene, Maurice brings up Rich, and Sabrina says she never wants to see Rich again. And as she's saying that, bingo, Rich pops up. So should Sabrina still be mad at Rich? I think she has every right to feel a way about him sleeping with Penelope, but everything else, no. Sabrina, you decided to break up with this man, and you absolutely did. Not only did you do that, you went ahead and used Damani's sperm and told Rich afterwards, right? And this was supposed to be somebody you was in a relationship with that you cared about. And once you realized he couldn't give you what you wanted, well, he could have, but you decided you didn't want to take a chance on Rich and your baby having sickle cells, so you decided to go with another man you barely knew? Yeah, no. Right now, people, I would never understand why the writers wrote it like that, but I get it, and that's what she decided to do. But in my opinion, should she still be mad at Rich? No. I mean, well, not for that part, no. And it's especially not going around telling people or telling Penelope that she took his sperm. But I just realized that Sabrina is upset because Rich told Penelope that she slept with Damani, not that she took his sperm. So I understand why Sabrina is mad on that part, but everything else was her choice, and I think they both had a part to play in it. So we leave from that scene and we go over to Zach and Aaron. Aaron comes over and brings Zach, a peace offering, not really a peace offering, but he brings him some donuts just to get, talk to him. And they have like a man-to-man conversation. And I love this scene because Zach and Aaron really got along. And I think Zach appreciated Aaron coming to check on him and everything. So in that same conversation, you have Aaron talking to Zach, and Zach saying to Aaron, I've been through a lot. My mom died, and going through the custody battle with Michael, and then forever passing away. That's a lot for one person to take in. When Zach said that, I realized that Fatima season 3, has already, so we're Sisters is after all of that stuff happened. So this is Zach after his mom passed away and the custody battle on Fatima. Well, the custody battle wasn't even on Fatima, it was on Sisters, but his mom passing away has already happened, which means we are Sisters is Fatima is always before Sisters, right? And when Sisters come on, everything has already happened with his mom. So I just realized that part. I wanted to throw that in there. And then as far as Aaron also says to Zach that Pam bought a lot of stuff, and he was wondering if he would want it because for him is Fatima's baby. Now at this point, I'm thinking, wait, is Fatima having a girl? Because all that stuff that Pam bought were all girl stuff. It was no boy stuff because they already knew it was two girls. Now that's where I believe it's going to be more drama towards the end, or Cameron feeling away also still, because Zach and Fatima may have a daughter together and they lost theirs. So I think that'll be another part of maybe season 10 or going forward. I don't know. But their moment was very I really liked their moment. I really did. This moment was really, really touching, how Aaron, assured Zach that he's definitely going to be there for him. So Zach received it and he was like, he appreciated everything Aaron has done and, is doing. And, he congratulates him on his daughter, Faith. And, they chop it up and then Aaron leaves. And then we go back to Sabrina and Rich. So they're still going backwards and forwards in this scene. But Rich tries to be cocky and, he has a moment where he's like, oh, yeah, I guess like the women, at least Penelope wanted him. And basically she didn't want him. And then he again accuses Sabrina of sleeping with Damani. And Sabrina says she absolutely didn't. It's just him trying to justify what he did. And then Sabrina tells Rich to leave. And then he says he still has more he wants to say to her. Now, what could that be? I don't know. But this scene stops. That scene ends, and then we go over to Andy and Fatima. Andy and Fatima are sitting. Well, Fatima comes in with coffee for Andy, and I understand that's her boss. But again, Fatima is always there for everybody else, and I don't feel like I want to see her take a moment to worry about herself. But because that's her boss, she comes in and she brings Andy some coffee. They have a seat, and then Andy does acknowledge that Fatima is pregnant. So Fatima's like, I'm worried about you. She was like, I'm worried about you. How's the baby doing? At this point is where I was wondering, and a lot of other people on my other pages were wondering, well, when did Fatima tell Andy she was pregnant? Now, this may have happened in the outside universe of Sisters, because I don't believe she told Andy. Only person that I remember Fatima telling she was pregnant was Karen. I know that Karen told Aaron, but there was no time for Karen to tell the ladies, because at this point, Karen was already going to the hospital. So I don't know at what point the ladies or Andy found out that Fatima was pregnant, but there's no here nor there. And Andy knows that Fatima is pregnant. And inside that same conversation, Andy gets emotional because she starts thinking about Karen and Karen's situation. And again, Andy is another one that doesn't really know how to be there for Karen. Like, how does she help her through it? She's worried about that part. So she's worried about, what may be going on with Karen and how she could show up for her. And inside that same conversation as well, Fatima assures Andy that, she understands, just be there for her. And Andy has, starts to feel, really hurt because of everything that's going on with Karen, And then they have like a little quick talk about Dr. Cruz. Oh, wait, was that in that part? I believe so. They have like a quick chat, and then we go over to back to Karen. Now, in this scene, Ms.Lisa is trying to have Karen eat, and she's okay. It's early, people, but I don't know, for some reason, she really pissing me off. I'm like, Karen, come on. Like, the baby, I get it though. But anyway, let's go back to the scene. So Miss Lisa is trying to get Karen to eat. Karen is refusing to eat. Well, before that, when we go back to the scene, Miss Lisa is talking to Aaron and Pam. She tells Aaron and Pam she wants to get Karen to eat something and get up and walk around, because Dr. Vaughn already told them that she can't stay laying down, because she may develop a blood clot or whatever, and she don't want, that to happen. So she's going to try to go back in the room and get her to eat and get her to get up and walk around. So Aaron was like, well, she was in there asleep. And Pam is like, yeah, so let the sleeping bear lie. Oh, God, Pam is a hot mess. So Miss Lisa tells Pam, well, you're going to go in there with me, which at this point, I'm like, why she took Pam in there? Pam was a waste of time being in there. She wasn't really saying much. And then when she did say something, it was like, Pam, you could have stayed out the room. But so Karen, when they come in the room, Miss Lisa is still trying to talk for her to get her to eat, and she refuses to again. And Pam, waste of time of Pam being there. And Karen is super depressed at this point. And again, people, at this point, do you guys really think, in the comments, let me know, do you guys really think that it's tenfolds because it's Zach's baby? Or do you think that Karen is going through the normal postpartum and depression? I mean, postpartum and, being basically depressed over losing her child, losing one of the twins? Or do you think that it's even more because it's Zach's baby? Let's see what you guys think. Comment below. Next, we go over to Dr. Vaughn. He calls Andy and has a conversation with Andy. When he calls, he's checking up on, at first, he seems to be checking up on Karen. And then him and Andy have this little conversation, and he's like, I like how you show up for your friend, and I could appreciate that, because some people don't have anyone there showing up for them when, they're going through stuff like that. So at this point, I'm like, all right, are they trying to put her with Dr. Vaughn? Because at this point, I really just want Andy to be with Robin. Okay, Robin. Please put her with Robin. Because every time somebody new comes on the show, why does it have to be with Andy? Even though I love Andy, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully Robin's coming back. But they have this little moment where I'm like, yeah, it looks like he's trying to get with Andy in some type of way. Yeah. So inside that same conversation, Dr. Cruz lets Andy know that, Dr. Vaughn lets Andy know that Dr. Cruz has already had many complaints about him, and he also has lawsuits. So Andy says, you know what? Basically Andy's on his behind. He's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, okay, thank you for letting me know that. So now she has a case she can basically build. So next up, we go back to Danny and Tony. Tony tells Danny that he's leaving Hyatt Airlines. Now, why would he do that? So people, this is what I think is going to be in the future for Tony and Danny. Danny is going to start to present Tony, and this is how Tony is going to go out of the show, because Tony is going to have to come and stay with Danny. She's going to feel smothered like she did with Preston, right? She's going to feel smothered and everything. That's why I believe she will start to resent him, and then he will wind up leaving. And that is how he is going to go out of the show, because I don't know if all of these men are going to stay on the show, right? So Tony tells Danny he leave the Hyatt Airlines, and you can see in Danny's face that she's not happy with it. Then we go back and to Sabrina, still going back with Rich, but at this point, Maurice and Paige are being nosy. They're listening to the conversation, and they hear them still going backwards and forwards. At this moment, who pops up? Penelope. I'm like, wait a minute. Penelope is doing the most. Who thinks Penelope is doing the most? They got Penelope doing the most on this show. I'm like, come on. How is this girl just walking around, popping up as Sabrina's job? And I'm like, nah, they got Penelope doing way too much. But she popped up on the right, too, because Maurice and Paige was ready for her. Maurice is hilarious, the things he said to Penelope. But Penelope disappeared, and after Penelope, I guess she hears Rich's voice after she asks Maurice, where is she came to see Sabrina, and Maurice is like, well, do you have a death wish? Because, girl, why are you just popping up here? But they go backwards and forwards, and the ending part is hilarious. But like I said, people, I don't know why they have Penelope doing the most. I understand she's upset with Andy, but come on, she's into Sabrina business, all this stuff going on. So I don't know what's the real outcome going to be with Penelope. But the funniest part, where Maurice said he told Paige to come on after Penelope realizes she hears Sabrina and Rich's voice, and she walks over to go in Sabrina's office. Paige says to Maurice, oh, shouldn't we call the cops? And Maurice is like, this is a black bank. No, we sure not. What we're going to do is call her. We're going to call her Put Out Penelope. And that was hilarious. He calls her Put Out Penelope. Like, basically, we getting ready to put her out on our own. So that was the end of the episode. And if I had to rate this episode, I'm going to give it a good 9 out of 10 because I thought it was pretty good. I thought it had enough drama. I thought it had enough of moments with Karen. I like how we starting to go into the other characters in the show and what they have going on. And it looks like next episode though, it looks like hopefully Zach doesn't go too deep into depression as well, because he looked like he's going to start drinking. Karen is still not bonding with Faith. I think that Ms.Lisa may have to take Faith, or Aaron will take Faith until Karen kind of gets herself back to normal. And yeah, that was the end of the episode. So stay tuned, people, because I will be reviewing episode 5, which will come out. I did this review a little late because I had went out, so I didn't have a chance to do my review. So normally I put it up on Fridays, but today is Monday, so I apologize for that for the people who may have looked for my review. And if you did, I am so thankful. Again, guys, stay tuned. I would like for you guys again to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you know when I post new content. Thank you.